The stars are right, and that means it's time for another episode of The Whisper in Darkness. I'm your host, the Manfromleng. Thank you very much for joining me today. On this episode, we are kicking off our look at the rogue cards in the Path to Carcosa Investigator expansion. We are going to discuss Dario El-Amin, Knuckle Duster, Stealth, and Cheap Shot. There are spoilers throughout if you care about that sort of thing. If you enjoy what you hear, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Before we get started, a quick reminder of how we rate cards here on The Whisper in Darkness. The best of the best get an Elder Sign, while the worst of the worst get an Auto Fail, and the cards in between get a +1, 0, or Elder Thing respectively. Cards that you build around or cards that are good in one particular deck get a Bless token, while cards that we believe are destined to end up on the list of taboos or are simply bad for the big game get a Curse token. Before we get started, I'd like to thank the patrons of this channel for their tremendous support. You all rock! If you'd like to be amazing like these people and support the channel's goals and see your name on this list, head over to patreon.com, sign up for a tier of your choice, and claim your rewards. That would be awesome. Special thanks to Cole Monroe Chitty, Nicole Fiscus, and Nate Lost in Time and Space for their contributions to the channel. I couldn't do it without you. Without further ado, let's get started. The first card we're going to talk about is Dario El-Amin, Unscrupulous Investor, a 4-cost asset with an intellect, skill icon, ally, and patron trait. While you have 10 or more resources, you get +1 willpower and +1 intellect. As an action, if there are no enemies at your location, exhaust Dario El-Amin, gain 2 resources. He has 2 health, 2 sanity, and takes up an ally slot. Thoughts on Dario?
It's an interesting first ally for Jenny, I would say. None of the other rogues want this. Skids wants to spend his resources on actions, and Sefina has other things that she wants to do. In the case of just Jenny, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I want to like it because the fact that he can give 2 stat boosts is makes him like a 3 XP ally right there. So I think at this point we've seen Peter Sylvester level 2 at this point, and well, he's 2, but he's undercosted. But a lot of allies will be 3 XP and give 2 boosts, which is like a point for Dario. But you got to work at it, because I think where he suffers, even in people like Jenny, is that he is blank unless you meet that resource minimum. And then also, here's the problem: how often do you spend actions for resources as Jenny?
Basically never. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of the problem. So he's like effectively blank unless you already have lots of money. So it's almost as if like that kind of makes him like not very good as a 0 XP card, because you need you want other ways, like really efficient ways to get resources to get to the 10.
You really want Hot Streak is really what you want.
What you really want is Hot Streak. Yeah. The thing is though, at this point, like what are your rogue allies at this point? You've got like Leo DeLuca.
Leo? This?
That's it? Like did they even get one in Dunwich? Did they even get an ally? Or was that like...
Yeah, they got those, the crappy fighters.
Cat Burglar and Hired Muscle, that's right.
Oh, yeah, but those are XP, and that's the thing. Like, when you start your deck out, like, you don't think about those. Yeah, I think we've been developing over the course of these reviews, like, a critique of the XP system, particularly a critique on, like, middling, 1 and 2 XP cards. So, like, I want to like this guy. He's got a good payoff. Like, his payoff is, like, a 3 XP card. The thing is, like, the rest of your deck kind of has to be geared for it. Remember, this guy is blank unless you meet the threshold. So...
Because, like, I could see a Jenny deck, like, you take Dario, you take Leo and Charisma, and then you take Hot Streak. So you have Hot Streak to kind of facilitate that. You could take High Roller, too, as sort of another payoff. And, that seems like a pretty functioning deck. Maybe Hard Knocks, too. That gives you all the stats.
Yeah, it's not bad. Actually, that's not bad at all, actually. Yeah, I think if you're in a small card pool, like that, I think that is a decent way to go, actually, with this. Yeah, it's the fact that he adds willpower, I think, is like really cool.
It's pretty good in Rogue, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's not a lot of ways to add willpower. Yeah, I could also see him as like he's the stand-in for as soon as you get XP, you get a certain other card later on. I'll let you guess what it is, what I'm thinking of.
I would really like to like this guy, but in solo, spending 4 resources for a blank card is a very bad deal. The fact that he only turns on at 10 means you're going to have to spend some time to get to 10. So it really requires Jenny, and the fact that you have to spend an action to gain 2 resources, that's just not happening in solo. You just don't have the time. So there's just too much working against this guy in solo. Maybe if you're playing Jenny, but I would just rather have Leo.
That's fair.
And work around the willpower issue another way. Granted, there aren't that many ways to work around it at this stage of the card pool. It's gotten a lot easier with the last couple sets where they seem to be throwing willpower solutions at the rogues left, right, and center. But yeah, this guy, I think I put him in a couple decks and I was just like, nope, this guy just doesn't work in a solo format where you're wasting 90% of your resources for a blank card that you hope will turn on at some point.
If he costs 2 to get out, well, then he'd be really good as a blank card if he costs 2. So I guess he kind of has to cost
2.
4.
He'd be insane.
Yeah, for a rogue especially. Like because 2 for that soak is pretty good for a rogue. I mean, the only other card that's like that is William T. Malison, but he's undercosted.
How would you rate this guy?
I don't think it's auto-fail territory, but it's pretty close. So I'm going to land on an Elder thing. It's just...
Yeah, I agree.
The core set just gave you Leo, and it's like, why play this guy, really, in most cases?
That's true. You do need a good reason to play him over Leo DeLuca. Yeah, I guess that's true. He doesn't have his niche yet, because one thing about saving resources and stowing them aside is at this point in the game, there's like no reason to just take 10 resources and set them aside. In fact, I think this guy is the only reason to take 10 resources and set them aside.
Because it hampers your streetwise, which is the issue.
Exactly. Yeah, like it's not until Circle Undone is when you start getting like things that pay off of actually having resources. So yeah, so it's like you're really spending 14 to turn on, you know what I'm saying? Because you got to lock them away. Yeah, so that's. But at least like as time goes on, he'll find his niche. So I'm gonna give him an Elder thing.
I am going to give him an auto fail at this stage of the game. I'd be willing to bump him up to Elder thing territory once there's some actual payoff, but in solo, there's just no reason to play this guy over Leo DeLuca at this stage of the game. I mean, maybe Jenny can make it work, but even Jenny in solo, you're just going to have to rely on Jenny's ability to get you the resources to power this guy. And at 4 cost, you're already starting at you got a long way to go before you're going to get to before you get to 10. So I had high hopes for this patron, but I mean, I think the Mystics definitely ended up with the better one.
Well, they needed it, so it's okay.
When all said it.
Oh, that's right. Jenny can take David Renfield. Oh, well, there you go. That solves her willpower problem.
And Renfield's actually really good in Jenny too.
Oh my God, you're right.
Yeah. So hey, there you go. Just take David Renfield instead if you're playing Jenny, and you get the willpower and resources. The next card is Knuckle Duster. 2-cost asset with a combat skill icon, item, weapon, melee, and illicit trait. As an action, you can fight. This attack deals +1 damage. The attacked enemy gains retaliate for this attack, and it takes up a hand slot. I honestly forgot this card existed until I was putting together the slides for this episode. I mean, they obviously felt that Machete offering, +1 attack and +1 damage was too good. So the rogue version, you get the +1 damage, but you get no bonus, and the enemy gets retaliate. I think the biggest thing working against this card at this stage of the game is that rogues just don't have the combat to really make it work.
Oh, yeah.
What do you guys think?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, who is this card even for, really?
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Like, we don't have Tony Morgan. We don't have, I mean, even someone like Monterey Jack or Winifred. Like, those investigators might be able to make this work, but as it stands, like, the only investigators that can take this thing are Sefina with 2, Jenny with 3, Skids with 3, and Wendy, which... Yes, I know someone made it work. Don't link me to some Arkham DB thing. Just calm down. Calm down.
We'll survive, baby.
This card is bad. This card is bad. It's an auto fail. I'm moving on.
It's so bad. It's so bad. It's a meme. How about that? It's so bad that the Wendy Knuckle Duster deck is actually a meme. So yeah, I'm just gonna go with the auto fail too. Yeah, it's just like melee weapon design is kind of in a weird place. It's always has been. It's because 1 damage is like so powerful that they have to like rein it in, and then
it's really the boost plus damage that's the issue with
Mephitic.
melee weapons, because it's like
once
you give it recurable bonus plus damage, you really just eliminate the need for any other combat card.
Yeah, it's true. You eliminate the need for anything with ammo. Yeah, that's like a larger discussion that I think we could have in like a whole video by now. Is like the idea that like guns are bad, in this game, like, and why guns are bad and melees are good. Yeah, and it's almost like baddies need more hit points, so that way guns could be better. And that I got a whole diatribe about that. But yeah, we're just gonna call it with like an auto fail. It is so bad. It is
Yeah, I think we'll probably touch on this at the end of the review, but I mean, we're 2 cards in to the rogues, and poor Sefina is just like, are there any tools for me?
You're right.
And I think it just goes to show how sort of design philosophy has changed, where you look at either Edge of the Earth or Scarlet Keys, and you're like, who's this card for? Oh, it's probably for the rogue in the set. Yeah. And you look at the cards here, and you're like, Sefina doesn't want Dario. Sefina doesn't want Knuckledusters. So, yeah, it's... Now, could you make a case for this in Tony? Once you
sure, why not?
Once you get to the 5?
I think so.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem so bad. But yeah, at this stage, this is definitely an auto fail. I would just not want to be with a 3 or a 2 or a 1 swinging at anything and taking hits.
Yeah.
Because the chaos bag's just going to screw you, and you're going to end up getting clobbered by rats or something like that, just because now suddenly they have retaliate. So yeah, put this one in your binder, and once you get Tony Morgan, maybe dust it off. And
0 XP Tony, because he cannot take Guardian assets. So yeah, this makes sense.
Not for Sefina, that's for sure. So moving on. The next card is Stealth, 2-cost asset with an agility skill icon talent trait. As an action exhausts Stealth, evade. The chosen enemy gets -2 evade for this evasion attempt. If you successfully evade the enemy, disengage with it, but do not exhaust it. Until the end of your turn, that enemy cannot engage you. I have never put this in a deck.
Well. Now we're talking about my true solo experience.
Largely because I fear hunters too much, and this doesn't really do anything against hunters. So, tell us about your solo experience, Mattastrophic.
Yeah, I've actually I played for a couple campaigns solo when I was doing solo, and I was playing with Skids. And the reason why is because Skids gets 4 actions, and you can just, that 4th action can be move. Yeah, I kind of like this card, because the thing about this thing is that I like how this card bails you out of bad situations, like where you're getting surrounded. So I admit I'm not the most experienced like true solo player, but the experience I have had with true solo is that when you get engaged by 2 or more enemies, you are in deep trouble. So anything that helps bail you out of that is pretty good. This is why I like Survival Instinct from the core set so much, is because bails you out when you need it. And I feel like this thing is like, what it really does is it doesn't really help you. It doesn't boost your evade, but rather lets you like deal with things that have 2 evade. You use this, you just don't fail. Whether your agility is 3 like Jenny or 4 like Skids, you just don't fail things. You do not fail to evade things that are 2 or less. And then you get the clue, and then you leave, and then the thing you never have to deal with it again. Now, hunters are an issue, yeah, but I feel like Skids can deal with that because he can get 4 actions on his turn. So like you can use the stealth, and then you can use the stealth to just like disengage the thing, and then you can just deal with it because you have 4 actions because you're Skids. Yeah, that's how I feel about it. It means you just don't have to commit and you don't have to slog through the health or commit cards to deal with like a 2 evade enemy. That's my experience with it so far, and I kind of like that. What do you think, Nate?
The issue is Hunter. is that in certain scenarios it is helpful. You can certainly think of situations where it's helpful to, sort of dodge an enemy and then leave it there.
Yeah.
But especially in later campaigns, so many enemies have Hunter now that this card really just does not do what you want it to do.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. But what if when you run against when you're surrounded by like 2 enemies, though, I think there's value in being able to go, I evade one, and that's the one I got to commit cards to. I can't commit cards to evading both of them, so I use stealth on the other one.
Mm-hmm.
And then I walk away. One of them hunts me, sucks, but I didn't take any AOs, and I only have one surrounding me now, so I'm not dead. Do you see what I'm saying, Nate?
Yeah, I get that. The issue, I think, in most solo games is that the game was probably over the turn before that happened.
Oh, I
think
get
is
it.
the
Okay.
issue.
Okay.
Is that like once you have 2 enemies on you, the game is over. Not because you it's because you end up in this loop of spending too much time dealing with the enemies. It's like even with stealth, you're still spending too much time with the enemies is the issue.
Okay, so what you're saying is just take versatile, so you can put in 2 copies of Survival Instinct and just call it.
Yeah, like you really in solo when you're in that situation, you want a card that just says exhaust them all and get the hell out of there.
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
Yeah, for me, I've never bothered with this one simply because for 2 resources and an action and a card slot, I just find I've never needed that sort of ability. I'm generally fine with evading stuff. I mean, I can see situations when it would be useful, but I just don't feel like it's useful enough. And the fact that it does nothing with hunters is really problematic and just makes me not want to spend the resources in a card for something that doesn't deal with the problem that I really need it to deal with. If this card had been tweaked in some way that, maybe it delays the hunters a turn or something like that, that would be okay, but there are other cards that do that, so...
Although back when this card came out, there were a lot of non-hunters.
But like all those enemies you would just kill.
Yeah, but this is the same... I mean, Path to Carcosa is the same campaign that has Phantom of Truth, in which all the enemies are hunters.
Yeah, that's kind of true. Those are the B keys. But then again, this is also Phantom of Truth. This is also, Path to Carcosa that has the frickin' poltergeist. Which are... like they don't hunt, but they're pain in the butt if you can't like deal with them. Yeah.
The issue is just the enemies that you'd want to use something like this on are very slim pickings.
Yeah, that's true. I'm thinking poltergeist. Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah, you're right, and that's kind of what led to like my experiences with it was like I have one enemy that I really am scared of, and then I have the other one that's just annoying, but I don't want to commit cards or any other resources to having to evade it, which is where stealth came in for me.
At least it's a card that Sefina might be moderately interested in if she's going an evade route.
I also think it upgrades well into a card that's later in this series.
Yeah, it does. That's fair. If that's your plan, then that seems okay, I guess. Yeah, the issue with this card is just it's really just not the most useful in most situations. And yeah, that's really just where it suffers from. Like -2 just an evasion seems pretty good on its face. And a lot of the time it is. But the issue is that the reason you evade stuff is to exhaust it.
Yeah, no, I totally get it.
Okay. How would we rate this one?
Is it an auto fail? No, I don't think so. Is it an elder thing? Yeah, it is. It's just that the fact that it doesn't exhaust the enemy really hurts a lot.
Yeah. I'm also gonna give it another thing because, like, from the multiplayer perspective, all you end up doing is shoving this onto someone else. In that case, because like when you have multiplayer, like you can teamwork to deal with the 2 enemies that are in your spot, and yeah, this is not gonna help you. So yeah, I'd give this another thing as well because it's not that great in multiplayer, to be honest.
I'm going to give it an auto fail. Never played it. Probably never will. Have done fine without it. Don't really need to put this in your deck. I can see, I mean, I could bump it up to another thing, but I don't know. I just feel like there are better options. There are better ways to build your deck to deal with enemies than not. I mean, like you said, Nate, the reason you evade enemies is to exhaust them. And this doesn't do that. So what's the point? The final card that we are going to look at in this batch of reviews is Cheap Shot. It is a 2-cost event with a combat and agility skill icon and the trick trait. Fight, add your agility value to your skill value for this attack. If you succeed by 2 or more, automatically evade the attacked enemy. Now, as a solo player, I have never really understood the appeal of this card. If I'm fighting something, I usually just want to kill it. So automatically evading it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. However, Mattastrophic sees a lot of value of this card in multiplayer. Please explain.
All right. So the key thing about this is that I think this might be one of the first ones in... No, it's not the first one, but it's one of the very few cards in this point in the card pool. There have been quite a few more that have come later, but this is one of the few cards that can evade something that is not engaged with you. And I can tell you from lots of multiplayer experience that when you want to help a friend, they often have an enemy engage with them. If your way of dealing with enemies is evasion, you're going to have a problem because you got to engage the thing and then evade it. And that's kind of a pain in the butt. You got to spend 2 actions, one to pull it off and then one to evade it. This is where Cheap Shot comes in. You contribute to attacking it, but by dealing it damage, but you also evade the thing even when it's not engaged with you. That's the key. Plus, you're going for succeed by 2, and you kind of want to do that once you buy Forgotten Age and get your lucky cigarette cases. But that's besides the point. The key thing is that you're pretty much you're like with 2 stats, like you're pretty much guaranteed to land the hit. So at that point, it's like whether you get the free evade. So you don't have to worry. You don't really have to worry about the problem of I missed and hit my friend because you're basically looking at Tentacle for that. Like you don't draw a Tentacle, you're gonna hit the guy. Because you're adding 2 stats. But the key thing is that what this does is it bails you out of the times when you do have trouble in multiplayer in that you need to help someone. This kind of bails you out of that. And I personally absolutely love this card. Yeah, as a result, because it feels like you're a hero when you play this thing.
Yeah, I've used it to similar effect in multiplayer, in 2-player, to what Matt is kind of saying here is like when another player is engaged with an enemy, or sometimes bosses too, this can be pretty helpful. But you go first. Yeah, you evade it, and then everyone could just gang,
Oh, because you nerf the retaliate. That's true. Yeah, when you evade it. Plus, there's also some tricks because you can also bypass alert with this, which sometimes is a pain in the butt. So yeah, you bypass alert sometimes, which is tricky but useful. But yeah, you're right. When you run into the big massive thing that has a lot of hit points, but it has retaliate. Yeah, this thing is really good because it means everyone
bosses
can attack it.
Do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you nerf that's true. You nerf retaliate. It's useful against, also really useful against massive stuff. Although against massive stuff you can just evade it normally. So less good. But yeah, the key is that you get that action compression of being able to save someone, who's got an enemy engaged with them.
I mean, the Ghoul Priest, I think, is a great example, right?
Oh my gosh, this is amazing against the Ghoul Priest because you save the whole team by doing this. Yeah, you buy the whole team a whole turn. Yeah,
and usually at least in 3-player, it's got an odd number of health, so sometimes you just need that one extra point of damage, and there you go.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. Yeah.
It's okay. I wouldn't play more than one of this, I think, in most decks that I would play it in. It's a card at least Sefina can use, so I mean, there's something.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true because she can kind of summon it up when she needs it with her
Painted World.
Signature. Yeah, that's true. I like playing 2 because I feel like I don't know. I just tend to toe the line between Seeker and Guardian. Whenever I can. As a rogue, so it's this kind of helps the
in
team.
4-player, you're more likely to have that situation come up.
Oh yeah, certainly. It's gonna come up. Yeah, that's if it doesn't come up, you're just kind of breezing the scenario anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, what do I even need cards in my hand for? So yeah, this one is like it's nice. It bails people out.
How would we rate this one? This is a tough one for me because it's not a card. I think I put it in a couple decks and it just didn't do what I needed cards to do. So, but I do after Mattastrophic sat down and patiently explained to me the value of this card. Certainly in multiplayer, it has its uses.
Yeah, I want to give it a 0. It's okay. It often, to me, at least in 2-player, feels like cards 31 and 32, because you generally need, you need your own engine first, and then you concern yourself about helping your friend out.
Yep.
At least in 2-player, but in 3 and 4-player, I could see this being more useful. And in scenarios with a big boss, I would consider including it.
Yeah, because you can kind of bail out the team. Also, like, in a very similar vein, I think breaking and entering, that one is even stronger. Because often enough... Yeah, but that's way down the line. So it's in that same vein.
That card's ridiculous, yeah.
That card's really good. Yeah, but yeah, I'm going to give this one a +1 because, like, I feel like, especially if you're playing, like, 4-player and you have this, it's going to come up. The magic situation is going to happen, in 4-player. And it's going to happen, like, and if it doesn't happen, you're kind of having an easy time anyway.
I think I'm going to give this one a 0. And I think if I was just sort of looking at it from a solo perspective, it may get an elder thing. But I'm going to bump it to a 0 simply because it does have value in multiplayer, and it has value in the very first scenario of the game. You play this against the Ghoul Priest, and then everybody can just wail on it, and makes that intro to Arkham Horror that much better for everyone. So you're not attacking the Ghoul Priest, missing, and then getting retaliated against. If you've got somebody who can play this, Ghoul Priest is suddenly evaded, and then everybody can just swing at it. Even people who have no real business swinging at the Ghoul Priest can start taking pot shots at him. So there is definitely something in that, and certainly the Ghoul Priest isn't the only enemy in the game that has retaliate and that has a lot of health that requires you to chew through it. And I think that's something that always comes as a shock to me as a primarily solo player, as I am used to dealing with 5 health enemies. I am not used to dealing with 15 or 20 health enemies, and so cards like this, I can see their value when you have to chew through 15 or 20 health, which is not something you do as a solo player. That's going to do it for our look at the first batch of rogue cards in the Path to Carcosa Investigator expansion. Let us know in the comments down below what you think. Any final thoughts on this batch? I did allude to it earlier, but poor Sefina doesn't fare all that well in this bunch.
No,
which I think is something we'll see throughout this batch of cards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the rogues don't fare well. Sorry.
They really don't. It starts to ramp up, though. I will say that. So stay tuned for more rogue action.
That's going to do it for this episode. If you enjoyed what you hear, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. If you need to contact me, I can be reached at manfromleng@gmail.com. I'm also on Twitter at manfromleng. Until the stars are right, keep your shotgun close and your elder sign closer. Take care out there, and happy investigating.